just because it's completely gone.
And Tennessee.
House, it's all gone. There ain't nothing left.
Some of the stuff inside found almost a mile downstream at this point.
Plus, the extraordinary efforts to save animals after the storm.
National Weather Desk.
Good morning and welcome to the National Weather Desk. I'm Emma Withrow. 5 days after Helene brought devastation to North Carolina and surrounding states, crews are still searching for anyone still unaccounted for. As of this morning, at least 166 deaths are blamed for the storm. More than 1 million customers in 6 states are still without power. They're also facing shortages of running water and cell service. Emergency crews are working to get relief for those supplies in the region, even though using mules to carry past those roads that are blocked and washed away. President Biden is scheduled to survey the damage later today. And get this, a former NOAA scientist says more than 40 trillion gallons of water fell from Helene and another rainstorm. That's enough to fill the Dallas Cowboys Stadium 51,000 times. We have team coverage from the hardest hit areas in North Carolina and Tennessee. We begin with Mark Lieberman in East Asheville.
This is our bedroom.
Crumbled debris, mud, dirt, rocks, and rubble. All that's left of this East Asheville street.
You don't know what it's like until you lose everything.
Early Friday, as Helene's heavy rain rushed in and rivers rose rapidly in western North Carolina, Mary Moss and her family managed to escape. But everything else, gone.
Just a matter of minutes, and it was over with.
We were in direct path of the river. We were the first to go.
Moss's home, one of at least 10 homes that washed away along Driftwood Court.
The neighbor's house, water was up to the roof, and that 3 of the houses on the river, the foundation had broke loose, and they were moving.
Neighbors left in shock along the shore. Lifetimes of keepsakes and memories now mixed in with the mud or washed away. In the aftermath, and still missing one of Mary Moss's neighbors.
The last I saw, I ran down the hill, his house was gone, and I heard people yelling from the porch up there, and I just saw a man on a roof. I thought it was, but I don't know if it was, but that was it.
Others say they saw the same thing, but so far that man hasn't been seen since.
The mud comes up half a foot high in some places. People, businesses, vehicles, and homes washed away by surging river waters. In Yancey County, where cell service is improving but still limited, it's easy to feel isolated.
It's amazing what's gone. What was there one day and is gone the next. It's amazing. It's devastating. It's overwhelming.
Jeff Hunter knows what's gone.
All of this was one big green field.
Banks Creek, permanently altered.
It's beyond explain. You can't explain the devastation. There's a lot of it probably that will never be restored. Just because it's completely gone.
That grim reality not stopping Hunter and his neighbors.
We tried to put the creek back to the original creek line because it had washed out so bad. The creek was now flowing right there where the well is, and right in front of her house.
They connected their community back to the main road.
Just trying to get up and help everybody, that we can.
It's the county-wide mindset.
I've got deputies that have lost their entire homes, but yet they've not missed a day's work since the storm hit.
Sheriff Shane Hilliard setting a motion to the side.
It's been the worst thing I've ever experienced in my life, and saw the devastation is people just can't imagine how bad it is in some of these places.
The post office and everything right there in Michaelville, all of that's gone. It's just complete devastation all over Yancey County.
Wow, it's devastating. The situation's similar in eastern Tennessee, where the rushing water wiped out homes and took at least 6 lives. Preston Ayers begins our coverage there in Washington County, which is southwest of Bristol.
The floodwaters are gone now. The river back into its banks back there next to the tree line. But when they came through almost instantly, it covered all of these river bottoms and water. 2 barns were right here, a structure there and a barn there. Those are now down to just a pile of metal. Some of the stuff inside found almost a mile downstream at this point. Then the homes. Take a look at this one over here. The water rushing through the doors. Everything inside this home is destroyed. What's left behind is a massive amount of mud.
Of course, the building's gone, the sheds is gone, everything's gone. Smokehouse is gone, all the carports, tractors, machinery, trucks, cars, house. It's all gone. There ain't nothing left.
Thompson survived the Great Flood of '77, as they call it, but he says this one is far worse. This time, he says, his fields will never recover.
There's sand and mud over there in alfalfa fields. That's over my head. It's so deep.
Working with the Tennessee Emergency Management Agency, these guardsmen are providing 24-hour support to those in need.
Have debris removal teams working to remove debris. We also have transportation and supply distribution operations.
Crews are working with excavators to clear debris. They then take that debris to large burn piles.
So that way then the utility workers can come in and restore electricity to this area.
Guardsmen are here from all over the state and are working in counties throughout the region. We're told they will stay here for as long as they are needed.
The entirety of the Tennessee Army and Air National Guard trains in order to provide this response to our neighbors.
It's going to take a long time for everyone to get their power back. The power lines in local communities aren't really the only things that need to be fixed here, though. Transmission lines were also knocked down, and most critically, many substations flooded. If the damage is severe enough, repairs could take weeks or even months. 350,000 customers in North Carolina are still in the dark, along with 500,000 in South Carolina. This woman understands the situation.
It's been tough, and they're doing all they can. They've got your crews from Iowa, Mississippi coming in, so they're doing what they need to do. We just have to be patient.
And it's not just people feeling the impacts without electricity and water. For the animal workers at the Asheville Humane Society, they're also searching for foster homes and reaching out to other organizations to help take animals to safety. Some organizations have answered that call, and a national pet charity is helping transport some of the animals and supplies. So far, around 40 dogs and 57 cats have been evacuated. Both North Carolina and Tennessee count on tourists this time of year to come see the fall colors. The disaster is going to make it difficult for many people to keep those plans, but visits to the parks are not out of the question quite yet. Rex Hodge reports.
Helene traveled from the Gulf of Mexico to the Blue Ridge Parkway. Several spots are closed to vehicular traffic, so Yannick Ricker and his girlfriend visiting from Germany are enjoying the roadway a step at a time.
Yes, it was fine.
The Park Service is advising caution with the potential for falling rocks and downed trees. Some parts of the Great Smoky Mountains National Park are open, but outdoor recreation is discouraged with staffing being stretched and visitor safety concerns. All recreation sites remain closed in the Pisgah and Nantahala National Forests until assessments can be safely conducted. All this impacting tourism during what normally would be a high visitation time to see the leaves change. Thelma Ray manages 3 motels in Maggie Valley, 2 of them sustaining substantial damage. Half the rooms at the Stony Creek Motel,
1 through 8, it took in a lot of water.
Swamped.
The water splashed up to the bed, so I'm sure our bottom of our mattresses are bad.
No customers at the Rolling Brook Inn until a washed-out bridge can be replaced.
The water just took our air conditioners and just pushed them through the rooms. I mean, it's a mess.
Best advice for those with plans to visit? Call ahead and check on accommodation options and what's open at our national parks and forests.
The victims of Hurricane Helene obviously need our help here. That's why our parent company is partnering with the Salvation Army to lend a hand. So funds raised will go to emergency aid, including clean water, food, and cleanup kits. Sinclair's going to match the first $50,000 raised. So go to sinclaircares.com or scan that QR code on your screen right there if you want to make a donation. And a quick check of the tropics this morning shows Hurricane Kirk in the Atlantic. It's not a threat to land, but a disturbance off the coast of Africa has a very good chance of becoming a storm next week. And a disturbance we've been watching in the Caribbean now has just a 40% chance of becoming a storm. And coming up on the National Weather Desk, we'll head to Wisconsin to check in on this year's salmon spawning efforts. And we'll find out how the weather could be contributing to the decline of butterflies across the Midwest.
I'm meteorologist Charlie Lopresti with Look at the Northeast. We're tracking seasonably cool temperatures in the Northeast for our Wednesday. Afternoon temps should make it into the low to mid 60s with a fair amount of clouds. There's a weakening front approaching from the west. Our greatest chance for showers this afternoon will be in New York, perhaps northern parts of Vermont. That feature will fall apart as it makes its way off to the east. Thursday's looking brighter. Look for developing sun, and temperatures will be a little bit warmer. We'll have highs in the 60s and low 70s.
I'm Chief Meteorologist Gerard Jabali. Here's a look at the Mid-Atlantic region. Your Wednesday may start out with just a stray shower, but a lot of clouds, occasional breaks in those clouds to give us a tiny bit of sunshine for your Wednesday afternoon. That front will likely wash out, and we are looking mostly dry and a lot brighter as we go into your Thursday afternoon. We'll have some sunshine across the region. Temperatures will warm up in response to that. Your Wednesday afternoon, upper 60s to low 70s. Looks like mid 70s for highs on Thursday.
Good morning, I'm meteorologist Charlotte Carl. Here is a check of your afternoon highs, mostly in the 80s, some 90s sprinkled in there, and we also have some upper 70s up in the northern part of our area. Isolated showers expected along the Florida Peninsula to start off your day as a result of a weak frontal boundary, and then some sea breeze showers expected in the afternoon. Also some rain expected in the western portions of North Carolina along the mountains of that area. Those showers fizzle out overnight.
You are watching the National Weather Desk.
Well, fall foliage is starting to pop in some places, and others it's still in the future. Whether it's underway or on the way, meteorologist Violet Cyber explains the reason behind the color changes and some other fun facts.
What causes this color change? Well, with cooler weather like we've been seeing, the tree's chlorophyll breaks down, leaving other chemicals that cause color changes. But what chemicals are these and why do they cause color changes? Chlorophyll is what causes green. Xanthophyll causes yellow. Carotene, you may think of a carrot, causes bright orange. And anthocyanin creates a red-colored leaf. And brighter colors are more likely when late summer is dry and autumn has sunny days and cool nights. And that's because when we get our rainfall earlier in the summer, that helps the leaves to grow. But when it's drier late in the season, more sunshine creates more sugars in the leaves, which creates brighter colors. Some other fun leaf facts for you. There's about 200,000 leaves on a mature oak tree. You could share that with your family and make them guess how many there's actually on a tree. There's about 360 dry leaves to equal a pound. One tree is 550 pounds of leaves, and wet leaves can multiply that weight by 4 times. It's incredible how much weight is actually sitting on those trees out there.
Fish biologists in Wisconsin were busy earlier this week processing hundreds of salmon. It comes as the spawning season gets underway, and Eric Peterson has more on this.
Just below the surface of this concrete holding pond, Chinook salmon are on the move.
Most of the fish that are coming back here are 3 or 4 years old. The Chinook salmon, when they come back off of Lake Michigan, the oldest they generally get is about 4.
Wild Rose Hatchery Fisheries Supervisor Jesse Landwehr helps guide the salmon Monday morning.
We're a little bit early, so there's not a whole lot of fish in the pond. We're not going to do any spawning today. We're just coming in to get our hands on some fish.
The salmon are measured and separated into holding tanks nearby. DNR fisheries biologist Logan Sikora says the sport fish were stocked into Lake Michigan in the 1960s, but have trouble reproducing on their own. And this year, he says, a balmy, dry summer had an impact.
Overall, we're a little bit behind from kind of a normal year with the lack of rain and precipitation that we've had. Many of our tributaries are fairly low for what's expected typically at this time of year, which has kind of pushed back the run a little bit more, and then the warm temperatures, unseasonably warm temperatures, have kind of pushed back the run a little bit as well. But over the next 3 weeks, kind of their natural instincts going to kick in, and they'll all be coming up.
As part of their life cycle, scientists say Chinook salmon spawn, then die. Jesse Landwehr says the goal of collecting 3.5 million eggs in the coming weeks is crucial for the species to survive.
They are heading to Wild Rose Hatchery. We'll disinfect them here at the weir, disinfect them again at the hatchery, put them up in our incubators at Wild Rose. And then those fish will be hatched out and turned into that 1.3 million fish that we're shooting for stocking this spring.
The vibrant color of a butterfly's eyes and wings can easily catch your eye when it crosses your path. But in Iowa, folks are worried that because the number of butterfly sightings is declining, there's something's going on there. So meteorologist Grayson Freud has more.
As summer comes to an end and temperatures start to drop, the butterfly migration season begins. But experts say the butterfly populations in the area this summer have been at an all-time low.
The migration is what causes some of these large drops in population, and so we had a drought last fall on the migration route, and so when they record the numbers in Mexico, it was about a 59% decline.
Native butterflies like red admirals, painted ladies, and eastern monarchs, along with the non-native cabbage whites, are what we typically see in the Midwest. But most butterfly populations, specifically the monarchs, continue to decrease significantly. The Monarch Research Project in Marion is actively working to add native pollinator habitat and reestablish the monarch population, and they have a few tips on what you can do to help.
It's all about planting natively. If we're talking about the monarch, it's planting milkweed, which is extraordinarily easy to grow. It is so important to understand the idea of a host plant. Not only are pollinators using plants for nectar, but they have to do their life cycle on them. So doing a little bit of research and figuring out what butterflies utilize what plants and planting with that in mind can make all the difference.
Last week on our podcast, Off the Radar, we talked about how to have difficult climate discussions with your children. This week, in part 2 of this series, we'll hear stories of success. One of those stories is from a mother and her son in Colorado. Tracy is an author and conservation journalist whose passion for raising outdoor kids led to firsthand exposure to weather extremes and even wildfires. This inspired her son, Scout, to follow in his mother's footsteps.
We live north of Boulder, Colorado, in the Roosevelt National Forest.
Scout, in your childhood, do you have memories of seeing signs of climate change or witnessing things in your region that made you think about nature and what was happening?
I can remember a couple Christmases where my parents would go on like mountain bike rides because there would be no snow here. But then there would be times like in 2022, around the same time, where that crazy polar, just cold snap came through, and it was like negative 15 degrees up here. And then the summers, depending on, how much snow we got during the winter, or, how much precipitation we were getting during the summertime, there would be wildfires, right? And the Cold Springs fire came, and we had to get evacuated from here because it was getting too close. So definitely there were signs growing up, and they became more frequent as I got older.
Tracy, do you remember your children asking questions about what was happening, and do you remember how you answered?
For us specifically, it's all about embracing nature and enjoying nature so that we know what we're fighting for when the time comes.
How do you keep your children hopeful about the future?
This earth and what we're surrounded by has become more precious as it becomes more threatened, and we have to embrace it. Even if that means going to a park 5 minutes from your house with your child and laying in the grass, or going out at night and stargazing if you can see the stars where you live, and trying to sort of evoke or find that feeling of awe and having them tap into that and saying, this is out there for you.
If you want to hear more stories like this, check out the Science Mom series of our podcast, Off the Radar. Listen anywhere you get your podcasts, including our YouTube channel. Just search up the National Weather Desk and you'll find it right under the podcast tab. And now we're going to take a short break, but first, let's take a soar over Yellowstone National Park.
Well, a very good Wednesday morning, everyone. I'm meteorologist Andrew Buck-Michael. A lot of sunshine across the plains, mid-80s for highs today. Still a little cool across the Great Lakes and the Ohio Valley with that cold front just moving its way through there. Tomorrow, we've got some 60s in the Dakotas. However, a lot of the rest of the Midwest got 70s and 80s for high temperatures and pretty much 70s and 80s for most of the Midwest on Friday. A little cooler to the north.
Good Wednesday morning to you. Meteorologist Chris Suchet. Look at our forecast today across the region, starting off with pretty comfortable morning readings. The afternoon, not bad in Arkansas, 70s to around 80. Then we get 80s and 90s across Texas, Oklahoma, into Louisiana. A lot of sunshine. Thursday, a lot of sun in the forecast, and you notice near the Gulf, that's where we do have a chance for a couple showers. New Orleans, perhaps back towards Corpus Christi, as we're watching the Gulf for tropical development in the days ahead.
Good morning. I'm meteorologist Rebecca Stevenson, and here's what's happening across the West. We're keeping the heat going. A big ridge of high pressure is helping to create also some strong gusty wind in parts of Idaho and over into Wyoming, where we're still getting near record high temperatures. But this is creating some critical fire weather because of the wind and the low humidity and these very hot temperatures. The Southwest continues to cook under excessive heat warnings and heat advisories into California. That's the scene from here.
Watching the National Weather Desk.
The floodwaters from Helene weren't a major risk to the eastern portion of North Carolina, and there's a reason for that. Meteorologist Les Stills explains why.
Because it deals with the watersheds. Here in eastern North Carolina, we've got 4 different watersheds here: the Tar Pamlico, the Neuse, the Cape Fear, and the White Oak. Now, that's why you often hear when we talk about the heavy rain up around Raleigh and Fayetteville, those drain through those watersheds here towards the east. But the one area that caught all that heavy rainfall, that's got other watersheds in the western part of the states, the Yadkin and PD River, as well as the Catawba, the French, and the Broad Creek River. We talked a lot about that, especially in the Asheville area. So it's different watersheds that they're going to be draining down towards South Carolina, not to us here in eastern North Carolina. So we're not going to be worried about an excessive amount of river level rises for us because of the heavy rainfall they picked up out west.
And another reminder here that if you want to help the victims of Helene, our parent company is partnering with the Salvation Army to raise money to help. Go to sinclaircares.com or just scan that QR code on your screen right there to make a donation. thank you so much for joining us today. I'm Emma Withrow. Make it a great Wednesday, and I'll see you right back here tomorrow.